Welcome to Backbone Unlimited. My name is Matt Hartsky. In this episode, we're going to talk directly to the hunter who is getting started with elk hunting and feels like they're already behind. Because right now, you're probably dealing with information overload. You're watching videos, hearing different opinions, trying to figure out calling, gear, setups, and at the same time, you don't even feel confident about where to start. And that is normal. But here's the problem, and it's the reason a lot of beginners struggle for years. They start in the wrong place. If you're not familiar with who I am, I've been hunting and guiding Western big game for over 34 years, and I've been a professional strength conditioning and nutrition coach for more than 30 years, and I'm here to help you become a more successful and consistent elk hunter and outdoorsman. Most new elk hunters jump straight into tactics. They focus on calling, what gear to buy, how to get a shot, how to kill an elk, but they completely skip over the one thing that actually makes all of that stuff work: understanding how elk live, move, and survive in the landscape. So nothing else is going to connect. And that's why elk hunting feels so hard. Not because it's too complicated, but because most hunters build it backwards. In this episode, I'm going to give you a clear starting point. I'm going to show you what actually matters first, what you should focus on early, and how to shorten the learning curve so you're not wasting years figuring this out the hard way. The biggest mistake new elk hunters make happens before they ever step into the mountains. They build their understanding of elk based on how other hunters talk about them, not how elk actually live. Elk are not random. They're not constantly moving, and they're definitely not everywhere. They are survival driven animals, and in pressured environments, their priorities are clear. Security comes first, then food, then water. If an area doesn't give them a consistent survival advantage, they simply won't use it during daylight. Their daily movement follows a pattern. They feed in low light, they transition through specific terrain, bed in secure locations during the day, and repeat that cycle. And here's what a lot of beginners miss: bedding is the key a lot of times, not feeding areas, not where you glass them at daylight. Bedding dictates where elk spend the majority of their time during daylight hours and how they move through the landscape. You also need to understand that not all elk behave the same. Cows will tolerate more exposure and pressure. Mature bulls will not. They seek out tighter security, better wind advantage, and more controlled terrain. And this is the shift that is going to change everything for you. Stop asking, where do I find elk? And start asking, where can elk survive pressure? Because once you understand how elk actually live, you're going to stop guessing. You're going to stop wandering around hoping. And that's when elk hunting starts to make more sense. If you don't understand this, nothing else you learn will work consistently. If there's one thing that will determine your success faster than anything in elk hunting, it's this: location. Elk hunting is not complicated in the beginning. It's about being in the right place, and the reality is most beginners aren't. Most new hunters gravitate towards easy access, close to roads, trails that are obvious, basins that look beautiful on a map or from a distance, big open country that feels like it should hold elk. The problem is that's exactly where everybody else goes too. And pressure, hunting pressure especially, changes everything. What actually matters isn't how a place looks, it's how it functions for elk. They need security cover where they feel safe during daylight. They need wind that behaves predictably so they can detect danger. They need tight proximity between where they feed and where they bed so they don't expose themselves moving too far. And most importantly, they need to avoid pressure. This is where you have to start separating two things: good elk country and country that just looks good. A big open basin might look perfect, but be completely empty. Meanwhile, a dark overlook patch of timber near pressure might be holding elk every single day because it gives them an advantage. Elk don't disappear when pressure shows up, they reposition. So if you're not seeing elk, it doesn't automatically mean you're doing something wrong. You're just not in elk. If there's one thing that ends more elk hunts than anything else, it's not wind, it's not shooting, it's not calling, it's not even fitness, my favorite, it's wind. And the problem is most beginners think they understand it at some level, but they don't quite yet. They've heard the basics. Thermals rise in the morning, they fall in the evening, but real elk country doesn't follow clean textbook rules. Thermals shift based on sunlight, terrain, shade, and air movement. Midday winds can override thermals. Evenings don't just switch, they transition so they can stall and swirl. Now add terrain into that mixture. Timber holds air and causes it to pool and drift unpredictably. Benches create horizontal movement in dead zones. Bowls and basins swirl constantly. What looks like a steady wind on a map becomes inconsistent and dangerous on the ground. Elk understand this a lot better than we do. They bed where they can use wind and thermals together, watching below while scent checking above. They travel routes that protect their downwind side, and mature bulls will often circle before committing, using the wind to confirm what they hear. Here's the hard truth most beginners don't realize until it's too late. They are blowing elk out without ever seeing them. You're not hunting elk, you're hunting the wind. And if your wind is wrong, nothing else matters. You can be in the right place at the right time, doing everything else right, and still fail. If you don't understand wind, you're setting yourself up for failure and you're going to stay stuck. So make sure that you understand wind. I've got several videos where we try to dive in and break wind and thermals apart for you. Hey, if you hunt public land elk and you're tired of grinding through random seasons, I built the elk hunting series of ebooks for you. Most hunters don't struggle because they lack effort. They struggle because they lack a system. And that's exactly why I built the elk hunting ebook series as a complete progressive framework for Western elk hunters who are done guessing and ready to hunt with intention. Volume 1 is going to be Foundations and Reality. I reset your mindset and expose the assumptions that quietly wreck seasons. In Volume 2, Finding Elk and Understanding Pressure, you'll learn how elk actually move under pressure so you can anticipate instead of react. In Volume 3, Terrain, Wind, and Position, I break down how to use landscape and thermals to consistently create opportunities. In Volume 4, Calling, Silence, and Pressure, sound becomes a decision tool, not an impulse. In Volume 5, Bow Hunting Execution, we're talking about close range strategy so you can finish your encounters. And in Volume 6, Late Season and Post-Rut, we're talking about how elk shift after the rut and how to adapt when others quit. This is a system built for consistency. This isn't theory. It's a structured system to help you find elk, read country, and make confident decisions every season. Buy each volume individually or bundle them all to save 50% off at backboneunlimited.com. Next, I want you to stop chasing elk and start positioning on them. This is where a lot of elk hunts fall apart. The movement strategy piece of the puzzle. Beginners think progress means covering a lot of ground. So they walk a lot, they call a lot, they react to every sound, and they chase bugles hoping to catch up. It feels productive. It feels like hunting. I've been there. But in reality, it keeps you one step behind the elk the entire time. What actually works is the opposite. You don't chase elk, you position yourself for them. Elk move with purpose. They travel between feed and bedding using consistent routes, especially in pressured environments where they minimize exposure. Your job is to figure out where they're going and get there first. That means hunting transition zones, right? Instead of just chasing bugles. So you're not looking for destinations, you're looking for the areas between the feed and the bed, right? Or the bed to the feed. Decision points become your opportunities where elk have to make decisions. Those are places that elk are forced to make predictable movements based on terrain. Benches that allow easier side hill travel. If you don't understand benches, I've got whole videos on benches. Saddles that connect two drainages. Side hill trails that contour through security cover. Those features funnel their movement, and that's where you gain an advantage. Instead of reacting to elk, you're waiting where movement happens, and that's the shift. Elk hunting is not about just covering ground. It's about cutting off elk movement. When you understand this, everything is going to slow down for you and you're going to stop wondering, stop guessing, and you're going to start hunting with more intention on where you position yourself because effort alone isn't going to create encounters. Your position does. And in elk country, position beats effort every single time. My next piece of advice is to run a simple system. This is how you improve really fast as a beginner. If you want to get better at elk elk hunting, you need structure, not just more effort, not just more miles, but structure. Because a lot of beginners are operating without a system. They hike, they explore, they react to what happens in the moment, but there's no consistent process behind their decisions. And that's why progress is slow and inconsistent. You need something repeatable. So here's one of the simplest systems, one of the simplest versions of a system I would start with. We want to locate, right? We're going to locate, we're going to evaluate the what we've located, we're going to position ourselves accordingly, we're going to execute based on where we've positioned, and then whether it works or it doesn't work, we're going to make adjustments and we're going to learn from it. So first, we locate. Are elk actually here? Not tracks from last week. Are they here right now? Then we evaluate. Is this area huntable with the current wind, terrain, and hunting pressure? Just because elk are present doesn't mean you can kill them there. Next is position. Where do you need to be to intercept the elk movement? Not where you saw them, but where they're going. And then we execute. You make a controlled approach. No rushing, no guessing, no reacting emotionally. And finally, the part that doesn't get talked about a lot, number 5, we adjust. Every encounter, good or bad, gives you information to learn from. So use it, build on it. You should not be starting from scratch every single day. You should be building day onto day onto day and refine your decisions and move forward with purpose. That's what changes everything. It eliminates wandering and it builds repeatability, and it dramatically shortens the learning curve because you're no longer guessing, you're running a process. Most hunters stay beginners because they never build a system. Once you have one, improvement becomes inevitable. One of my best pieces of advice is to focus on encounters and not killing, especially early on if you're a beginner. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is measuring success by whether or not they kill an elk. And that sounds logical, but it's the fastest way to get frustrated and to stall your progress. You're going to try to take shortcuts. But early on, success isn't about harvesting an animal, it's about building your understanding, right? And if you're trying to take shortcuts, you're never really building that understanding. Getting close to elk, hearing them, watching how they move through the terrain, seeing how they react to pressure, and most importantly, learning from your mistakes, especially when it comes to things like wind. Those things are invaluable over a lifetime of elk hunting. Every time you blow out elk, there's a reason. Every failed setup, every missed opportunity, every moment where things fall apart, that's information you should use to get better, right? Every blown opportunity is data, but only if you treat it that way. If you just blow it off, you're not going to improve very fast. And the reality is, your first few seasons are about building a foundation. You're learning how elk use the landscape, how they respond to pressure, and how your decisions affect all of these outcomes. And that's what creates long term success. Killing comes after understanding. And when it does, it's not random, it's repeatable. And this is the shift that a lot of elk hunters never fully make. The goal is not to kill an elk, the goal is to understand elk so well that killing becomes repeatable. If you focus on encounters instead of outcomes, you're going to improve faster. You're going to stay consistent and you're going to build a system that actually works over and over again over time. Elk hunting is not random, it's structured. And most of the frustration beginners feel doesn't come from a lack of effort, it comes from starting in the wrong place. But when you build this the right way, everything is going to start to connect for you. Simplify your approach. Focus on how elk actually live. Pay attention to wind, positioning, and movement instead of chasing tactics. Stop trying to do everything at once and start building a foundation that makes sense, because this isn't about trying elk hunting and hoping it works out. You're learning a system. And once you understand that system, how elk use terrain, how they respond to pressure, how they move through the landscape, you're going to stop guessing, you're going to stop wandering, and you're going to start making decisions that actually lead to solid encounters. That's when things will change for you. The faster you understand how elk actually live, when you learn elk behavior, the faster elk hunting is going to start working for you. Now, if you want to go deeper into elk movement, pressure patterns, terrain positioning, and structured decision making, that's exactly why I built the elk hunting series of ebooks. It's a progressive system designed to help you understand how elk actually use country and how to position yourself accordingly. And I have a link to those ebooks in the description. If you want hands on application and real time breakdowns, we have an in person in Elk Camp 2026 that is built around this same philosophy: structure, preparation, and execution in real terrain. 90% of Elk Camp is going to be running you through scenarios. You can check out Elk Camp at backboneunlimited.com. And if you want ongoing access to the Team Backbone community, full classroom, my digital content vault of elk resources, private discussions, and direct communication to me for planning, you can join Team Backbone at backboneunlimited.com underneath our membership tab. Everything we talk about here is connected. Preparation is not a single video, it's a system. Thanks for being here. Until next time, train harder, hunt smarter, and never settle.